Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our new Tech Tuesday Back to Basics series. This is Sue Dieters, and it's been a while since we've had a new series going on, but today we are going to focus on the Library Master module. We're going to be reviewing the new modernized screens and some of the Library Master module's features. Now, for those of you that have been with us before, welcome back. I do apologize for the length of time we've been away. And those of you that are new, welcome. We're glad that you could join us today. We do have a few housekeeping matters I need to tell you about. First of all, as you noted, we are in listen-only mode. We do record every session. So the recording will be placed on our website within a couple of days, along with any documentation that we use. We will put that out there for you also. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the questions box. Suzanne is sitting watching that box for us as we speak, and she's going to be monitoring them. If the questions don't come to you right now, you need to ask a question later, we will provide you with our phone numbers and email addresses if you want to shoot us an email. If you need to bump off early, don't worry. As I said, we are recording these, and you will be able to finish up the webinar. Also, if you have any users that you need added to the email list that really should be on these, please go ahead and shoot us an email with their email addresses, and we will get them added to the list. So let's go ahead and get started. The other thing I'm going to mention is the fact that I am aware I do sometimes speak very fast, so that's why having these recorded is a good thing. So if you feel like you've missed something, don't worry, you'll be able to go back and play it back. I'm going to switch us over to our other monitor here, and hopefully you'll be able to see that. From what I can see, you should be able to. And let's talk about the modernized screens. A lot of you are saying, well, what are you talking about, Sue, modernized screens? Well, Sage introduced with the 2015 version a new standard screen. Now, most of us are used to the classic screen. That is the old gray type screen and the menu features. So now you have a choice between classic and standard. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on our Sage 100 icon here. And what you're going to notice when it comes up, when I put my user login name and password, there is a settings button. Now, I need to tell you that the settings button can be accessed only if the user has the rights. So if you try to click on this button or it's grayed out, then you don't have the rights to click on the button, and you may want to talk to your admin about it, giving you the rights. I'm going to go ahead and click on it just so you can see what's in here. I'm not going to discuss it right yet, but this is the user settings, and the users can actually change some of their own settings. I'm going to go ahead and click on accept, and let's go to click on OK and access the program. Now, once we get into Sage, this is the new standard screen. Remember, those of us that are classic, that's the gray type of screen. This is the new standard screen that comes with the system. So I'm going to go ahead and click on modules here, so I'm where I want to be. And I'm going to click on user settings. So just as in any other Windows program, you can get into your user settings from two different places, the login or right here off of the menu. So while I'm here, I am going to discuss a few things that are in this settings. First of all is the prompt for module code. Now, this is a great feature for those of us that are in a multi-company environment. What the system is going to do is it's going to prompt the user for the company code when they log into the system. So that way it puts them into the company that they want to be in. Also, this next one, retain module on company change. Once again, if you are in a multi-company environment and you are the accounts receivable person, when you change companies, the system will automatically take you back to the Library Master menu. But if you prefer for it to take you into accounts receivable, click on this, retain module on company change, and you will be in the module that you need to be. Right here, the implied decimal point. This is a question that we get quite often. If this is turned on and you put in 1, 2, 3, that is going to turn into 1.23. If it's cleared, your 123 will be 123. Now, the other one that's always a fun one too is this partial lookup default. You have two options here, begins with and greater than. Now, I got to admit, in the old days, I was rather partial to greater than, but I'm kind of getting fond of begins with. So, for instance, what this is for is anytime you click on the magnifying glass in a lookup, and let's say I put in BE and then click that magnifying glass, or for those of us who like the function keys, hit F2, it will start with any customer, vendor, inventory, whatever the lookup that we're in, it'll start with those two letters and only show our options that start with BE. Whereas greater than, it will start with BE and then go right to the end of the alphabet. So it's just how you prefer. Now, our next option here, default report preview zoom. Okay, a lot of you might applaud at this one. When you are in the system and you are printing a report and you are hitting preview, and the report always comes up too small for us to see, and we have to click the zoom button. What this will do is it will give you a default. You can choose from what's on the screen here, or you can create your own number like I have. 125% works fantastic for me. So, desktops. Once again, as I said, the system now comes with two different desktops, standard, which is what we're looking at, and classic, which is the old way that we are used to seeing. Try the standard a little bit, see how you like it. So go ahead and click on standard, and then we have theme codes that come with this. Right now I'm using the standard green, but it also has standard blue and the classic theme. Now, a lot of times I choose the classic theme because I do kind of like that grayish background when I open a window. But I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of here right now, and I'm going to accept the options that I have. And I'm going to go into user maintenance. Now, once again, this user maintenance is normally an admin role. So your users should not be able to have access to this, but doing the change user settings or the settings button, it should be okay to let them have access to this, but not user maintenance, because this is where you're setting up your users. Now, you'll notice in here, this shows what companies and what roles this user has, but I'm going to concentrate on the Preferences tab. Everything that you see in here, for the most part, is what you saw on the user settings, but there are more in here. For instance, automatic log off. Automatic log off is a nice feature. You can tell it how many minutes to log someone off, because what happens to us? A lot of people go to lunch and they leave their system open, and a lot of us try to post at that point in time, or we're trying to do some other function and we cannot because people are in the system. So that automatic log off is kind of a fun tab to be able to change the amount of time that they can let the system sit. Now, keep this in mind. If they are in a data entry menu, in other words, they're entering a sales order and they have not yet clicked accept, the system will not automatically log them off. So if they're in the middle of entering an invoice, a purchase order, or whatever, and they have not clicked on accept, they will not be automatically logged off. Now, I'm going to go to the autocomplete tab. This is actually a newer feature that came within the last couple versions. The autocomplete is when you're starting to type that customer information and the system tries to find that for you, right? Some of us don't like that feature, so if you don't, you just disable it per user. But most of us, it's actually a very helpful thing to have that feature turned on. It finds the customer's vendors items a lot quicker. If you do not see this tab, then it's not turned on in the system. So let me go ahead and show you where you have to turn it on in the system. This is an admin task. Most people should not be able to get into your system configuration. But what you're going to notice is Enable Autocomplete should be turned on here. If that's not turned on, you will not have the functionality. But I also want to point out Enable Spell Check. Nice new feature, and that, I believe, came in the 2018 version. So that's kind of a cool thing to know that that's new and out there. Okay, now, theme maintenance. We talked about the classic, the blue, the green, and they're both, they're all kind of, they're kind of okay, little too bland for me. So what you might want to do is create your own theme. The system allows you to do this. Now, another thing that I want you to think about with these themes, do you have an employee that is possibly colorblind or visually impaired? This would allow them the ability to create their own theme. So let's go ahead. We're going to create one, and I'm going to call this ABC default. And what you can do in here, and you can have a lot of fun with it, you can change your font. You can change your icon set between the classic and the green. I like the classic. You can change your background colors. Especially with the classic, the background is gray. So I'm going to go ahead and click my palette here, and I'm going to choose, I've been doing green this week. Green's been my fun thing this week. So I want you to look at this solid color block here. I like to make them very light, easier on the eyes. So I'll come up to a color that I particularly like. You can also change your buttons, your secondary buttons, and let's look at this grid height down here. Right now it's set at standard. I'm going to click the down arrow. We're going to choose condense. It's a little bit smaller, but expanded makes it a lot bigger. So choose what's good for you, play with it, test it, and then you can make that your default view. Theme. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that, and we're going to exit out of here. Now, let's talk a little bit about the desktop, because it does look quite a bit different than our classic view. Some of us are going, oh, no, 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 no. Change is hard. We all know that. But, sometimes it's kind of fun to experiment around a little bit, right? So this area up here, this is called our ribbon. Just like any Windows product, your Outlook or your Word or whatever, we all have ribbons now. My area here is my navigation pane, okay? This area here is my tasks pane, because these are the tasks that are associated to whatever module that you have open. And this area here is my desktop browser. These are all links to various things with Sage that you can, get additional information on, okay? Down here is my status bar. This will tell me what company I'm in, what module is currently active, the user that's logged in, and the date. I want to talk about dates for just a brief moment. You'll notice that in here, right here where I'm at this date, it is showing today's date. Library Master will always use today's date. Always. That's the date that's going to print on the reports. Or it's also a date that when we post items, we have an accounting date that it's going to use to post, but it will also show the posting date. So we know when that actually was, what day that it was actually posted. Maybe a different accounting date, but we know when that transaction actually was created. You cannot change this date down here for Library Master, but you can change it per module. So if I go into accounts receivable, a lot of us know that when we go into a module, it's going to prompt us for a date. What the system is more or less saying is, what accounting period do you want to work in today? Okay? And every module can have its own date when you go in, and every user can have their own date. I know it's a little bit confusing, but when we do some of the other Back to Basic Tech Tuesdays for the other modules, we'll go into that a little bit more in depth. So up here on your home menu, you can do your change company. So I can click here and I can select whatever company that I want to go into. Keep in mind, I can also do that same thing from down here. Here's my change date and change user. A lot of people create an admin user, so they may have to go to someone's workstation and change the user so that they can do some maintenance on that workstation. And we also talked about change user settings already. But what I really want to talk about today is this view. So this, for me, the standard desktop is a little dark. It's a little bit hard with the lighting the way that it is. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go to this application scaling here. And right now you're going to notice that my check mark is on medium. Now I want you to watch the fonts over here. If I choose default, it gets quite a bit smaller, a little harder for me to read. It's kind of like a little bitty eye test for me. If I click on the application scaling again, I'm going to choose large, and goodness, that makes it much, much better. Unfortunately for me, I do not have a monitor that supports extra large, but that is an option that is available to you. So I particularly like a medium there. So the other item that I wanted to point out to you is an item arrangement, and we've got sort module list. A lot of us have been using the product a long time, and we're used to this weird listing that we have here. And technically, they're arranged kind of like grouped by the type of modules that they are. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Sort Module List, and what you're going to see is the system will automatically sort in alphabetical order. For newer users or even users that have been in the product for a long time, that's kind of like, wow, that's going to be really helpful instead of me having to scroll up and down all the time trying to find my module. Now, sort module menus. I want you to look at this middle section where we have main, reports, setup, utilities, and Office 365 integration. So we're going to click on sort module menus, and what you're going to see in there is that it just became alphabetical for the menu titles. Now I'm going to do sort module menu tasks, and you're going to notice that the tasks within a menu became alphabetical. So you do what's good for you. You can mix and match that, and each user can have their own order of how they would like to do that. Over here on the far left is desktop themes. Right now, my default is this green. You'll see that there are many different themes out here. Try them all. And one day you may have one theme, one day you might have another. Lately, I have actually been using this lighter blue theme. I think it's a little easier for me to read, not as hard with the white background screen there. Okay, so the other item that I would like to point out under my modules list with the standard desktop only, if a user does not have the security rights to a module or a menu within the module, they can't see it. So some ways that's bad, some ways that's really good, because if inquiring minds don't see it, they don't click on it. And sometimes we get some people that they get their feelings a little hurt because of the fact that they can't get into a menu option. When they click on that menu, in the classic, they will get a response that says, you do not have rights. Some people get a little bit hurt about that, but hey, with here that solves that because they can't see it, and it also makes your list shorter. If they don't need it, they don't need to see it on the list. Let's scroll down here. We're going to go into our favorites. Now, remember, in the classic screen, we actually had the ability to put our task, I'm going to click on here, put our task up across the top here, right? And we also had the ability to have the My Tasks tab. Well, the favorites replace the tab. So if you are using Classic now and you do want to start using favorites, those are going to go away. Okay, and you will have to set up your favorites again. And it's very easy to set them up. So let's go ahead and click on modules. I'm going to open General Ledger. You're going to notice it's going to prompt me for my accounting date. And I'm going to open my favorites again. Well, I'm going to say I get into account maintenance quite a bit. I'm going to go to reports, and I'm going to say I do a General Ledger detail report a lot. I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to go to accounts receivable. Once again, I get prompted. I'm going to go back to my favorites. And I do customer maintenance a lot, and maybe I have a tendency to run my aging report. So I can actually add all these to my favorites, and put as many out there as I can fit. Now, let's say I want to, combine them and compartmentalize them in a better manner rather than just having a big old list here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say insert folder. And I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it AP. I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and you'll notice that it is empty. I'm going to go back to modules. I'm going to choose my accounts payable, and I'm going to go back to favorites. I'm still in AP. I'm going to say vendor maintenance, and maybe I do a lot of manual check entry, manual check and payment register, and daily transaction register. I'm just left clicking and dragging. So now I have a folder out here for accounts payable. Maybe I would set a folder up for every single one of these, every single module that I have just a few features that I use rather than listing them all out. So that's a way that you can organize them. Another thing that you can do, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say insert separator. So you'll notice you can barely see it, but there's a little line here. I can actually pull this up and create separators between all of my modules there if I wanted to do it like that. So that's another way of organizing. Remember in the old days, for those of you that have been with the product a long time, we used to also create shortcuts on our taskbars of external programs like Excel. So I can, if I wanted to launch Excel or Word or whatever from within Sage, well, all I have to do is, you'll notice I have Excel up here. I'm going to click, I'm going to drag it right there, and now I have a shortcut to Excel within my favorites. So if I clicked on that Excel, it's going to actually open that up. I also, if I wanted to, I've got a folder out here. I could drag that down here too if I was needing to open up this folder quite often and didn't want to have to go back out to my desktop. The other feature that I wanted to show you, if you look at my menu across the top here, I'm going to actually add my favorites to the top menu. So for those of us who actually used to like it up there at the top menu, you can do that and use this arrow way over here. I can push that over and then I'll just have my favorites up there. Okay, so that's your favorites. Nice way of organizing things. Okay, we're going to go back to modules and I'm going to go to Library Master. Now, I'm going into the company maintenance real quick. I want to show you a few features within company maintenance. Once again, this is a security privilege. For not every user should have access to this, okay? So I'm going to pull up my ABC company, and what you're going to notice on my main tab is it will show me all the modules that I have activated for this company and the current level that they are that this product is at for this company. 6.0 equates to Sage 2018. So we're going to click on the Preferences tab here. Now, a couple of things that I recommend for your companies that you turn on. For instance, print user logon on reports. I really like this because especially if we're still printing or even if we're doing paperless office, the user logon prints on the bottom of the report so we know who printed that report. It's a great feature, and that way you can kind of, if you're doing some work or trying to figure out how this got posted or who posted or whatever, this is one way it's going to tell you easy access. The other option here is allow external access. Most often you want that turned on. If you are using an external program like Sage Intelligence, Access, Excel, those programs to do queries and whatever, and they need to access our ODBC tables, allow external access has to be turned on. The other feature here is return city in all caps. Now, in the old days, those of us have been around for a while, all vendors and customers used to be input in uppercase. Nowadays, we use proper case. So if you have a situation where you're entering a customer or a vendor, and every time you put that zip code in and the city comes back and it's in uppercase and it's driving you absolutely mad, this is why. You want to turn this off. It's a feature that is, a little older than a lot of us would like to remember, actually. So anyway, let's move on. The display inactive customers, display inactive vendors, and ALE lookups. These are your magnifying glasses. When you're clicking on that magnifying glass, if you have marked a customer and vendor or vendor inactive, then if this is checked on, you will see all of those. Most often, you do not want your users to see those. You don't want them to try to select them anymore. However, there is in role maintenance a role that will allow you to set up a specific user to have access to view those inactive customers or vendors. The other one that I wanted to point out here is display inactive or restricted warehouses in ALE lookup. And you just raised your eyebrows and said, what? That's right. In the 2018 version, we can now inactivate warehouses. We can inactivate them or we can restrict what is posted to them. You still cannot delete them. We can't delete them because we are keeping that inventory transaction history, but you can inactivate them if you need to. Okay, that's a really great new feature. Over here, I'm going to flip over to your themes. And this is where you can choose a theme for your company. So I have Classic set up here, but since I set up that ABC default, I can choose that one instead, or choose the standard or standard blue or standard green for this particular company. Once again, if I choose Classic, I can click on my color wheel here and then go in and find a color that I would like for this company. So maybe I want this one to be a very light blue. The user theme trumps company theme, so keep that in mind. User theme will take precedence over the company theme. Okay, now while we're in company maintenance, one of the features that I wanted to show you was creating a test company. Now, you may need a test company for multiple reasons. That be your playground. If you need to do, how is this going to work? How do I make this do this? You may also want to create an archive company because you want to remove some of your history. So this is where you're going to do it, is in company maintenance. So I'm going to take a quick look up here, make sure I already have a test, so I'm not going to use that. So I'm going to use XXX. And I'm going to call this test company. And a lot of times when I create one of these, I will tell myself what it is a copy of. And if I'm creating an archive company, I might do something like Z19 and say archive of ABC, and I'll put the date that I made the copy. So from here, I'm going to click on copy. And I'm going to pull this over here because it ended up on my other monitor here, but it's telling me that I need to be careful with my integrations. I'm going to click OK. And then the next thing I get is a message that says I have to save this company first. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. Once it does that, it's going to bring up this screen and you have to choose what company you're going to copy from. I'm going to choose ABC and it'll list out all my modules. Now, if I'm just testing something and maybe I don't need all my modules, I'm going to click on my little red box here and I'm going to deselect everything. And then I'm going to just select the module that I want. Now, watch what happens once I click Accounts Receivable. You'll notice that General Ledger and Common Information automatically check. You cannot uncheck those. It is a system default to have you go ahead and have those checked. So be very careful if you are doing an archive and you want to retain your GL as of a specific point in time. there on this, but it's a little kind of copy paste thing that we have to do. But in general, you just go ahead and hit proceed, and then the system is going to ask you if you want to copy all your data files. And we're going to go ahead and say yes. And it actually copied that quick. So while it's copying, it can take a very long time if you have all your modules selected. But right now, I now have a new test company of my ABC data, and I will then have to give my users rights to that company. If they don't have rights to all companies, they have to have a right to that company in order to have that as a playground area. I will tell you, whenever I make copy companies, I always change the color so that when the user goes into the playground company, they will know that they are not in their live company. Otherwise, you run the risk of having a user enter live data in your test company. So do use the color changing at that point in time. Okay, so one last feature that I wanted to talk about today is this Master Counsel. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Master Counsel. We're going to talk about what this is for. This shows us who the active users are in the system, what modules and what functions they have open. If I had accounts receivable invoice data entry open, it's going to show it on the screen. So if you are trying to do a function and you can't do it because it says somebody's in the system, this is where I always come. Once again, this is a user privilege. So a role has to be given to a user in order for them to get into Master Counsel and see information in Master Counsel. Another great feature is this broadcast. What broadcast allows you to do is send messages to your users, such as please exit the system. And once they exit the system, then you can go on and do whatever function you need to do. You obviously can't send a broadcast message that says please get back in because they're not in. So you would have to send an email for that. But this really helps a lot when you are needing to do some maintenance on your system and you need to get people out. So this was a very broad stroke of some of the library master menu items in here. The other last thing that I did want to mention is those of you that used to collapse the Sage menu down to just a very small, one bar up here, you do still have the ability to do that, where you can collapse it, up at the top and keep it into one line. So that technically is all I have for you today. I am happy, as we started to announce that we are having this new series. We are going to go module by module. We'll be reviewing some of the setup options in the module and some of the features in those modules, along with functionality webinars coming up soon. We always welcome any input from you for the future webinars that you would like to see. I'm going to bump us back over to my other screen here so that you can see our contact information. Suzanne, do we have any questions?
You have done such an excellent job explaining all this. We do not have any questions this morning.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's great. Now keep in mind, as I said, I go through things very quickly, but it will be on our website here soon, and we do welcome suggestions of other modules, features, whatever that you would like to review. I thank you for taking the time to spend with us this morning. You all have a great day and happy computing. Thanks, and see you later. Bye-bye.